When they asked men to rate women, what it turned out was that men rated women on a bell curve. You know, they found, let's say, around 70% of women attractive, with some very unattractive and some very attractive. But it was, you know, it was a fair assessment. The difference lies with women. See, women don't see men in a normal distribution, no. They see men only in the top as average, and 80% of men as below average. Hello and welcome to the heliosblog. My name is Helios. Today we're going to talk about men when asked about their dating life. When women talk about the dating scene, they always seem to be complaining about men. What they don't realize is which men they're complaining about. See, women operate based on the Pareto principle, and the apex fallacy is huge for them. We're going to get into this. You're going to want to watch the entire episode. Now, here's what's also important and interesting. Women don't know that the lived experience of men is very different depending on their competitiveness in the dating market, and that is because of the Pareto principle and the apex fallacy. Women only see the top 20% of men, they find the rest unattractive and therefore don't see them. Those men are invisible to them. Of course, when they complain, they only complain about the apex top men. Let's get into it. What would the average man tell you about the dating scene? The average man will tell you that the dating scene nowadays is almost impossible. It feels like nothing you do ever works, and that women are always wanting to be friends. For the average man, women want to go out to nice dinners and then ghost. Average men are highly uncompetitive, and this is especially true online. Let me talk about this study once more. There was a study conducted, I'm pretty sure it was by OkCupid. The study wanted to see the difference between male and female ratings of attractiveness. When they asked men to rate women, what it turned out was that men rated women on a bell curve. You know, they found, let's say, around 70% of women attractive, with some very unattractive and some very attractive. But it was, you know, it was a fair assessment. The difference lies with women. See, women don't see men in a normal distribution, no. They see men only in the top as average, and 80% of men as below average. What that means is that what women see as the men that are attractive or potential mates is only a tiny fraction, 1/5 in fact, of the entire male population. If we think about biological history, this bears fruit because in biological history only 40% of men ever reproduced. All of the people you see in the world nowadays are only the result of 40% of people mating. And it's only gotten harder in the modern world. What would the below average man tell you about the dating scene? Well, the below average man is totally invisible. And this is where the experience of the male and female is totally different. For men, many men have experienced being invisible. Young men are totally unattractive to attractive women. Most men have experienced being totally invisible, not even existing, and this is true especially for below average men. Many women have never experienced this because they have inherent value and the value goes up until a certain point. And women have a rock star phase, which is a phase in their life where they're so attractive, they're as attractive as the average male rock star. Male thirst is huge. Many women have never experienced this being invisible, and they don't experience it until they're like 40 plus. Many women that are speaking their opinion on like talk shows about like how the world works, etc., they have no idea that a large population of men is literally invisible to them. They only experience the absolute apex men. It should be no surprise to anyone that the below average man is invisible. He's not even treated as a sexual possibility for women. It stands to reason that it should be no surprise why there are many men that are going their own way, that are refusing to even enter into the market to compete because they know that even when they're competitive for them, they're not competitive in the market, they're still invisible. The dating scene is bleak for the below average man, and it's a sad reality. Let's contrast this with an above average or high value man. Above average or high value man, they would tell you that the dating scene is difficult, but that regular access to sex is easy. Most above average and high value men have had rotations of women, and some have even had full-on harems, which is, you know, they had multiple friends with benefits concurrently, or they had, you know, a main girl and multiple side girls. Above average or high value men are extremely sexually successful and often the envy of average and below average men. And many of you are wondering why this is. I already alluded to this earlier. The reason why above average men are so successful and below average men are invisible is because of the Pareto principle and how it relates to hypergamy. In the current deregulated sexual marketplace, the Pareto principle and hypergamy reigns supreme. In this marketplace, it's not all, but 90+% of women are looking for the same subset of men, the top 20%, for dating and sex. In the modern world, you have women who are dead average or slightly above average, absolutely disdaining, calling men trash, calling men worthless, that are exactly at their level. And these women are, instead of pairing with those men as would have been done, let's say 2 or 3 generations ago, they're instead choosing to be on the rotation of an above average or high value man. And this is due to rampant hypergamy. I'll quote a famous man in the manosphere, I'll quote Rollo Tomasi here, but actually this comes from this guy named Puck. But anyway, what he said is, women would rather share a high value winner than be saddled with a faithful loser. And this is totally the case in the modern world. In fact, it is hyper true in the modern world. It is extremely true. 20% of males get 80% of female attention. So this is the Pareto principle, right? There is a long-term consequence to this. Those women that have chosen to be on the rotation of these successful men, instead of pairing up, getting married and having children, those women that have chosen to waste away their youth, they end up miserable, taking antidepressants and buying a cat or dog and dying alone. Because instead of getting with a man who's on her level, she slept with a man that's way above her level, who would only use her for sex and nothing more, and then discarded her. That is one of the big reasons why we have such modern misery. It is because of this very thing. So here's the conclusion. Men have very different lived experiences, and that depends on their spot in the sexual marketplace. The world is extremely competitive nowadays, and unless you're a superior man, the dating scene is extremely harsh, to the point where nowadays virginity for men is at an all-time high, whereas actually virginity for women has gone down over time. My recommendation for you is hard work in order to become a superior man, because if you're an average man, I mean, you're in for a bad time. Without it, without hard work, you as a man are destined for long-term misery. You've been warned. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Please remember to do all of the following. Like the video for the algorithm. Comment on the video. I respond to all comments and I'll give you a heart. Subscribe and hit the bell so you can see my content on your feed. Check out all of my content on other platforms. It spreads the reach of the channel. YouTube, bit.ly/heliosyoutube. Rumble, bit.ly/heliosrumble. My blog is realheliosblog.com. My podcast, bit.ly/heliospodcast. My Patreon, patreon.com/theheliosblog. You can also support the show at bit.ly/heliosdonations and buy my books at bit.ly/heliosbooks. Thank you so much for all of your support.